big banks are getting hacked and Target is getting hacked. Fortune 500 companies are getting it. So if it can happen at that level, right, it's a problem for everybody. And printers are vulnerable. I don't care what brand you sell; they all have issues. And a layer of software on top of that, print management software, especially, is another buffer. So, Mark, looking at that, looking at security and what a huge opportunity, but also something so critical. What are some of the, I guess, critical features you think that every print management solution needs?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? And I mulled over this one a lot to figure out, like, what do we want to say here? And I'll be honest, I went off and phoned a friend and I said, "Hey, Chris Dance, help me with this. And what do you think about security and where we need to be within your product?" He kind of spun it on me, and it really made me think about, the product. We talk about PCI compliance, we talk about multi-factor authentication, we talk about hardening systems. In all reality, it's check boxes. Almost no matter where you're at in the world, whether it's print management or ERP systems or whatever, there's certain check boxes you have to meet for security features. You can have the best security features in the world, but if you don't have a team that knows how to roll it out to the customer, then it's nothing. I've got electronic locks on all my doors here, and I can do all this stuff, but if my kids leave and they leave the doors open, what good are the locks? What good are the security systems, right? And so what it comes down to is how well we can take these products and ACDI and our team, how well can we educate our partners on what are the security features and how do you roll those out, right? And that's the thing that we have to continue to invest in the channel and our channel partners. None of us would be anything today. We would not be here, all three of our companies, without this channel. Right. And so that investment that we all make back to the channel to educate their reps, to educate their pre-sales teams, post-sales teams on, here are the security things you need to talk to your customer and figure out what is the best thing. You got to lock it down. If we're putting in print management and we're putting in all these rules and routings about, great, here's all these security profiles. If they allow their users to print directly to the printers and bypass the servers, it's no good. So that education back to the channel to say, hey, let me look at your whole customer network. Let me look at everything that you have going on and show you how print management and the security aspects of print management and GDPR and all that kind of good stuff is going to help you. And then we'll roll it out, right? And on the second part of that, you got to have a company that's on the back end that really believes in security and adapts. There's kids out there getting hacked, trying to hack systems all day long. Printing, we can talk about it being cloud-based all we want. There's always going to be a component that's on-prem. There's always that device, that peripheral that's sitting over here that somebody wants to see, can I get into that machine? Can I do something to disrupt what's happening at my university? And I'm going to send these flyers out to every single printer. What can we do? So having a company that's behind you that continues to adapt their software, that continues to accept security vulnerabilities when they happen. Andy, you mentioned it, it's going to happen. And we have to educate our partners that we got a great software, but you have to keep it updated. You have to continually apply patches. You have to continually stay on top of the software. If it's 4 years old sitting there, you're not secure. And that has nothing to do with the software. It's all about the customer and how you enable them to look at security from a holistic approach.
Well, I couldn't agree more. You could have the most secure, impenetrable software that ever existed, which, by the way, obviously doesn't exist. But if it's not activated, if it's not updated, then it's vulnerable. And we've seen dealers have customers that they're providing security for them. They get hacked, and you just don't want it to be through the printer, and you definitely don't want it to be through the software that your dealers are providing, whether it's PaperCut, whether it's MyQ. Let's move on to you, Dom.
And Andy, I agree with you, right? We don't want it to be there, but it's code. It's going to happen. There's something, it's not just a singular piece of code you're working on. You're having to talk to the printer. You're having to talk to the firmware. You have to open up ports on the network to be able to communicate. There's so many different layers. Mm-hmm. So to say that it's never going to happen it's Bigfoot, people have seen it and all that, but we don't know where it's at. It's going to happen. There's going to be a breach, and it's how you respond to it. And I think that's the biggest thing in the channel. We have to respond quickly. We have to be open about these security vulnerabilities, things that happen, so that we can get out there and respond to them. And that's the value of what this channel can offer.
I agree. The dealers and the end users, for that matter, need to be made aware. If something happens, that needs to be communicated to the field immediately.
Correct.
And because you can't just leave equipment sitting out there uncovered. And while you're saying, should we tell people, should we not? People just need to know, and
That's right.
it can happen to everybody. So just take your medicine, and let's help these customers get these patches. Make sure that they're updated. The products are updated. Dominick, moving on to you, how do you guys at ecoprintQ? It's not just PaperCut. You have all these other products that you also support. CU Mango behind you, and some of the others. How does secure print management? How do you guys approach security as an offering, and as just something that you're providing to dealers? How does this fit in with ecoprintQ?
Yeah, very, very similar approach. I mean, we believe in a comprehensive approach, supporting our customers. Working closely with our partners to make sure, as you guys mentioned, staying on top of pending software patches. I mean, I'm going to drill that to the end of time because it's so important to stay up on your M&S, keep your product updated. And as I get into this conversation, we kind of talk about it in two different ways. One is an on-prem product, and then one is a cloud product. I mean, they both may have a different path of updating software, but at the end of the day, the most important piece of it is ultimately to keep your product updated. Some customers may decide to update it or not update it, but us as ecoprintQ, we have to continue to drive that message, the importance of it, and the value that they get out of keeping their products updated and their M&S active. So that's part of the software side, right? But then you take it to another side where we say the total solution. When we're working with a reseller or dealer, outside of the actual product itself, it's an understanding of, like we said earlier, is understanding the customer expectations, their requirements, their goals, and then offering a complete package solution that encompasses a security aspect to it. It could be based on just the basic things of providing card readers for authentication, maybe a VPN connection if they're doing a private cloud, right? Or maybe PIN authentication, dual factor authentication, secure print. There's just so many things that we can do based on understanding their environment and providing a comprehensive solution to attack the security needs.
Well, I mean, again, right? The common theme is if you're not updating, if you're not keeping these patches, updated, then you're risking it. Your machines are sitting there, your assets are sitting on the network, they're not secure. And if somebody finds them, if someone gets in, we just don't want you don't want to be, as a dealer, as a reseller, you don't ever want that IT person coming back to you saying, this is how they got in. Your security wasn't updated, your print management, your software, your cloud software, or your on-prem, whatever it wasn't updated, and that's how they got in. That's can be, I would imagine, an expensive phone call to have to take. Martin, moving on to you, what are some, especially because you're in the development side of it, what do you see and what are you identifying as some of the security threats in print management specifically? And then how are you guys addressing them?
Yeah. I would maybe use one typical example or typical topic we speak about with every single customer when we compare on-prem and cloud product, right? Because I'm sure that everyone thinks that the cloud services are more dangerous because the application is no longer running on their own hardware, which is under their own control. Yeah, that's the standard concern of every customer. However, it's very often forgotten that, and it was mentioned now several times by you guys, that even such an application can be exploited, especially when it is not properly maintained. Yeah. And the maintenance is not important only. The maintenance is not how to say important only for this specific application, but we need to think about operating systems. We need to think about other applications which are running on such a local environment, because the hacker can easily find the door from totally independent application and finally approach our application. So it's really easy for them to find the door when the whole system, the whole ecosystem is not properly maintained. And the trouble is that every organization wants to save the money, and they are trying to eliminate some people from their team, and they think that it's easy to install something, and it is easy. But they are losing the capability, to professionally maintain the whole ecosystem, because they don't have the IT skills anymore, and then it simply can open more opportunities. How this organization can face to some problems. So when we go back to the topic, finally we found together with our customers that when there is some let's say properly and quality cloud-based application regularly maintained directly by the vendor, so it means that they can outsource all those IT troubles to the vendor, who can immediately react to some things which will come. I totally agree with you that everything can be hacked, and everything probably will be hacked. The question is only the time and the place. And our role is to eliminate it as much as possible, and to provide our knowledge, to eliminate those circumstances, or to immediately react when it happens. And I think this is the role of the vendor of such applications, because we can't say that we are unhackable, or it can't be the problem in our application, because every code can be hacked. It's the only question of the interest of the hacker. So when we speak with our customers, we can end with a very positive conclusion that for them, finally the cloud can bring less threats than on-prem environment. So this is our experience.
Well, and I would add to that, in SMB, it's possibly even more critical, because these customers often don't have an on-premises IT department, right? So they're really relying on partners, dealer partners, outside IT companies. It could be the same, but it could be, this company does my IT, my copier company is my copier company, but everybody's got to take responsibility for it. So let's get some feedback from you, Robbie, as this applies to the field. What's the opportunity for dealers with print management in your opinion?
It's funny the way you frame that for me, Andy, because it's almost going to sound like we rehearsed my response, but I promise the viewers, you and I did not do this. But when I look at it from the field perspective, keep it simple. We've talked about updating infrastructure, making sure patches are applied. You can look at different investments. You're talking about, I have this outside IT company, or some folks will say, I've got my nephew and he's my CIO. He takes care of it for me.
Yeah.
I frame it to the end users and the partners of ours who are selling to these end users in a very simple way. What's the cost of mitigation versus the cost of litigation? Or now I've also added in there remediation.
Yeah.
Can your customers afford to not take this seriously? Yes, it is an investment. Yes, it does cost to maintain and have this infrastructure that keeps you secure. But what if that breach does happen? What if, your county government goes offline for 3 weeks and nothing gets processed? That happened recently. I live in the state of South Carolina, and there's a county near us where that's happened.
Yeah, ransomware. I mean, it happened to one of the major copier printer manufacturers in our world. One of the biggest, maybe the biggest one. We won't name names, but they had their website offline for a couple of months, I think, a year or two ago. So, I mean, it can happen to them. It can happen at that level, right?
So I'm going to trademark that one: the cost of mitigation versus litigation or remediation.
I like that one.
Robbie already wrote that down, bud. I'm going to steal it, and I promise maybe to give you credit every now and then, but that was really good.